Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to a special post-fight edition of War Week Radio featuring three-decade fight trainer, Mr. James Gogue. James, how are you doing this evening, sir?
Hey, Joe, I'm doing good.
Well, I tell you what, guys, we are joining you just minutes after Sergey Kovalev loses his 3 world titles to Andre S.O.G. Ward in a 12-round tactical contest at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Gogue, I tell you what, in the outset of this fight, well, it looked like it was going to be all Sergey Kovalev, dictating the pace of the fight, controlling distance with his jab, using his footwork to move in and out of range, and flooring Andre Ward in the second round, getting a 2-point swing in the second stanza. And then what happened? Gogue, what was Kovalev doing that was so effective? Because I scored the first half of the fight 5-1 in favor of the Crusher. How did you see the first half of the fight, and what was Sergey doing that was so effective, throwing Andre Ward off of his game?
That power jab, that was dictating the pace like I thought it would. You know what I mean? That was getting him into rhythm. That was setting the pace, the tone of the fight. Then, of course, he ran into that right hand. Ward, he caught Ward coming in with that right hand and put him on his butt, and that was $1 million question going into the fight. Will he be able to hit Ward with that big right hand and hurt him? But it was pretty much that power jab that was dictating the fight, and his good footwork, moving in and out of range, not coming forward and being a stationary target like he was in going in from round 7 on. He wasn't using his footwork intelligently, moving in and out of range, to throw Ward's timing off. And he was, marching forward, staying right there. And, he let Ward back in the fight when he applied that strategy.
Yeah, in the second half of the fight, like I stated, I actually had it scored 5-1 in favor of Sergey Kovalev in the first half. In the second half, yeah, just exactly as you described it, Andre Ward seemed to actually start frustrating Sergey Kovalev, taking him out of his game, and we saw him merely following Andre Ward around. Seemingly, he looked a little fatigued, very frustrated, abandoned the jab, stopped using his footwork, moving in and out of range, and it almost seemed to be that he was allowing Ward to get his punches off first. And I scored the back half of that fight, though, 4-2 in favor of Ward, which, in my opinion, I still had Sergey Kovalev because of the 2-point swing in the second, and the huge lead going into the back half of the fight. I still had Sergey Kovalev winning this fight 7-5 or 115-112. But the judges at ringside are ultimately what matters the most. All 3 judges, Burt Clemens, Glenn Trowbridge, and John McKay, 3 American judges, scoring it in favor of Andre Ward 7-5 because of the 2-point swing in the second. They had that scored 114-113 all the way across the board, with your winner and new WBA, IBF, and WBO light heavyweight champion. Gogue, were you a little surprised when you heard the judge's verdict called by Michael Buffer?
When you said 114-113, I go, oh my God. There was that. Somebody's going to get screwed. Because I thought that was way too close. But I thought I still had Sergey Kovalev winning the fight. Same exact score as you, Joe. But, we're not I'm not the judge, you're not the judge. And the only ones that count is the one at ringside. But, yeah, it was a complete shock. But it doesn't surprise me. I see it in boxing a lot. And I heard Kathy Duval was at ringside. She was furious about, the judging. She was furious about Andre Ward's, over excessively holding the whole fight and, stuff like that. And she is going to, they have a rematch clause, and she is going to exercise the rematch clause in the contract.
Well, Gogue, I can't anticipate this actually doing all that well on in terms of pay-per-view purchases. Maybe it had a decent gate, but once again, because of the casino site fee with the MGM Grand getting the proceeds at the gate, at least the majority of them, I don't see. I mean, do you think that this merits a rematch? I understand that they have a rematch clause. Is the rematch on regular HBO this time, Gogue?
Nah, the money they're going to want, it'll be on pay-per-view again. And I think the rematch clause, I mean, is going to be exercised, no doubt, by Kathy Duva and their attorney, Pat English. But also, I think it's going to do better the second time around in numbers, because every time you got a fight that's highly anticipated, especially when there's a controversy and decision, the rematch always does better. And there's going to be a lot more media attention, a lot more fan interest in this fight. But they got, they got to find a way to cut, these live Facebook live feeds. People are stealing the feed and showing it to everybody on Facebook Live for free. So they got to cut that out. You know what I mean? Somehow. But anyway, that ain't the topic of discussion. It's the rematch clause. I think it's going to be hot, Joe. The rematch, especially, like I said, if it's controversy and a lot of people thought Kovalev won, I think a lot of people are going to tune in for the rematch.
Gogue, did you find this fight to be entertaining?
Yeah, it was entertaining because it was a close fight. I thought, Ward was, excessively grabbing inside. Well, it's both of them. Kovalev don't know how to fight inside, but you can see Ward, especially round 6 on, he was landing some good solid body shots. Okay, to sneaking them body shots in there, which I could see the judges at ringside giving them the edge in them close rounds because of those body shots. Okay, Kovalev, all he wanted to do was tie up and clinch, and Ward, he got that space he needed in there to rip them body shots, which I remember we talked about, Joe, this week about the fight. If Ward works effectively inside, that could give him the edge to win the fight. And I really believe, even though it was ugly, it wasn't aesthetically pleasing like inside work you see from the great Hall of Fame boxer Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. You know what I mean? His inside work was effective. Not like I said, not aesthetically pleasing or not fan friendly, but the body shots he was landing in the 6th round on, you could see it started having an effect on Sergey. Yeah, it started slowing him down. It started taking his jab away from him. And you know what, Joe? When you excessively grab and hold like Andre, you have you make the other guy waste energy too. So that might be another reason why Kovalev got off his game plan and quit using his jab because of those tactics. I just talked about.
Yeah, he seemed to really lose focus in the second half of the fight, and it seemed to be the difference, according to the judges at ringside. So there you have it, guys. Andre Ward is your new light heavyweight champion, beating Sergey Kovalev with all 3 judges at ringside unanimously scoring the bout 114-113. Gogue, so do you think there's going to be an immediate rematch for this one? Do you see Andre Ward electing to fight someone in the interim, or do you think he's going to go right back into fighting the Crusher?
Yeah, depending on what the contract said. Kathy Duva, I was reading on Twitter that she was irate and wanted that rematch immediately. So they're going to exercise that rematch clause, and they got a great lawyer to enforce it, okay? I've seen these rematch clauses before, fighters put in their contracts, but that's all it is, a rematch clause. If you don't have somebody to enforce it, then guess what? It ain't going to be enforced. But Pat English, their lawyer, he's good. He's good at getting stuff, honored in the contract and everything. And if he has to go to court, he'll go to court. Yeah. So, like I said, what I'm trying to say, Joe, is that rematch clause has some bite. Okay, it's just not there for the
Not there just for decoration. Okay, very good.
Decoration.
Well, I tell you what, I purposely, and I do this for every major fight, I purposely watched the French-Canadian feed for this fight. I don't like to hear American commentary. I definitely don't like to hear Harold Letterman when I'm actually trying to score a fight. But a friend of mine who actually watched the HBO broadcast, he messaged me and stated that Harold Letterman scored the fight 8-4 in favor of Sergey Kovalev, 116-111. How did Harold Letterman? Why was he so far off?
Because he thought Kovalev was landing the harder blows, the more impactful blows that win fights. That's professional boxing. I mean, that's the name of the game of professional boxing. And the punch stats showed that Kovalev landed the more impactful blows, the power punches. So, and he just thought that Kovalev, every time he hit Ward, it was doing more of a
having more of an impact.
Effect. Yeah, it had more impact, and it was doing more damaging effects than Ward shots. So.
Well, let me ask you this. Whenever Ward, he seemed to overwhelmingly have the crowd in his favor, and every time he even landed a stiff jab, the crowd erupted. Do you think that had anything to do with the way the judges saw the fight playing out?
Evidently, Kovalev did. That's why he blamed American judges.
Really? Is that what he said after the fight?
Yeah, he goes, I blame, I don't know if I want to fight here in the U.S. They had all American judges, and and they were, they were giving them the close rounds and stuff. He was saying stuff like that. Hey, that can be a factor, especially when you got the crowd, behind you, and rooting you on, and every time you hit the guy with a hard shot, they go crazy. That does have an effect on how a judge. That does have an effect on how a judge scores a fight, especially if it's a close round. But to me, Joe, the bottom line was some body shots. I really believe those body shots were the inside work I thought Ward would do, but I thought he would do it more aesthetically pleasing. I didn't think he would do it I didn't think it would be that god awful and. To Andre Ward's defense, Sergey Kovalev wasn't making it very easy for him. He was getting him in headlocks and really doing his best to try and wrap up Andre Ward every time he closed the distance. Well, didn't I tell you that, Joe? Didn't I tell you that Kovalev, once he gets in the pocket, he has no inside skill set.
None.
And that might be,
none.
And that might hurt him in this fight. And I really believe it did. When he got in the pocket, I think the last round or the 11th round, he finally landed some body shots. But before that, he wasn't even trying to hit the body. And I really believe them fights were when there was a lot of grabbing and holding. Ward was at least working with good, solid body shots. Kovalev wasn't, because, like I said, he doesn't have no inside skill sets on how to throw those body shots correctly with consistency round after round. Ward does. It's effective, but it's just god-awful to watch. But, hey, that might have been the difference in the fight. No, I really believe it is. If you watch the fight again, Joe, I really believe them rounds were close. But them body blows that Ward was landing in the trenches, that might have been the difference why the judges scored it for Ward.
Indeed, it seemed to really make the difference according to the judges at ringside. The body work, and Kovalev seemingly getting frustrated and losing focus as a result. Pretty much abandoning his jab the entire second half of the fight, not using his footwork to move in and out of range, allowing Andre Ward to get his punches off first. That all took a toll and ended up, swaying the judges at ringside. So all three American judges, Burt Clemens, Glenn Trowbridge, and John McKay, all scored the bout identically, 114-113. There you have it. Gogue, do you have anything left to add before we actually, say goodnight and start working on our big fight preview for Lomachenko versus Walters next week?
No. You know what, Joe? The fight had some excitement to it, believe it or not, because it was a highly anticipated matchup. And the fight was a very competitive fight and everything. But I still thought, Ward was landing the bigger blows like Harold Letterman and you thought.
You mean Kovalev?
Yeah, Kovalev. Yeah, excuse me. Kovalev was landing the bigger blows, the more telling, more effective blows, and that's what you usually. That's a criteria, number one criteria you use when you're judging fights, But there's a lot of controversy. Kathy Duva wants a rematch. It's buzzing all over the internet now, Joe. It's hot. I think it's going to overtake Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather. Okay, so I really believe, Joe, the next time they have a fight, Don Chargan always told me the rematches are usually more, they usually do better at the gate and at the pay-per-view. But they got to find someone to stop these live feeds on Facebook Live, the piracy that's going on. Yeah. I want boxing to succeed, and I want the numbers to be high, and I want Kathy Duva to make money. You know what I mean? Nice, great lady, and and I want her company to make a lot of good money because she's good for boxing. But anyway, it was Joe, it was a good tactical, entertaining fight. Only time it got really got awful when that excessive, grabbing and holding by Ward. But the difference was he worked inside the pocket with effective body shots. Kovalev didn't, and if he don't learn how to work on the inside, like I talked about, Joe, it might be his downfall the next fight too.
Indeed. Well, that's going to just about do it, guys. On behalf of 3-decade fight trainer, Maestro James Gogue, I'm Joseph Herron, and you've been listening to War Week Radio's post-fight coverage of Sergey Kovalev versus Andre Ward. Have a great night, everybody.